The hallway fell silent. Jason sneered. "Hey, Jungle Girl, what are you doing here?" Before anyone could react, Malik's eyes flashed with fierce resolve, and in seconds, the bully was on his knees, begging for mercy. The hallway fell silent. Jason sneered. "Hey, Jungle Girl, what are you doing here?" His words sliced through the chatter like a knife, echoing off the lockers. Malik's eyes flashed with fierce resolve, and in seconds, the bully was on his knees, begging for mercy. Malik Washington was no stranger to insults. In the diverse yet often divided halls of Westbrook High, she had learned early how to hold her head high. At 17, her deep mahogany skin shone with quiet confidence, framed by thick shoulder length, curls that bounced with every step. Dressed in her dark green camo hoodie and black joggers, with her trusty black and white running sneakers, she looked every bit the fighter she was inside. Jason Matthews, on the other hand, was the school's infamous bully, known for his sharp tongue and cruel jokes. He never missed a chance to belittle those he saw as different, and Malik was often his target. But today was different. The moment Jason spat out his racist slur, Malik's heart didn't race with fear. Instead, it burned with a controlled fire. The crowd around them held their breath, waiting to see if she would crumble or fight back. Malik stepped forward, her posture steady and unyielding. "You want to play that game, Jason?" she said, voice calm but icy. Watch carefully. What followed was a blur. Malik's martial arts training kicked in, honed through years of discipline and quiet practice after school. She moved with grace and power, disarming Jason's mocking grin and replacing it with a look of shock and desperation. Within seconds, Jason was no longer standing tall. He was on the ground, hands raised, begging Malik to stop. The hall erupted with whispers and gasps. Malik helped Jason to his feet, her voice firm. "If you want respect, learn how to give." At first, that day marked a turning point, not just for Malik, but for everyone who witnessed it. The ripples from that hallway confrontation spread fast throughout Westbrook High. Malik's unexpected strength, both physical and emotional, was the talk of every classroom, cafeteria table, and locker-lined corridor. For years, she had endured whispered slurs and sideways glances. But now, the tide seemed to be turning. Malik wasn't just the girl who stood up to Jason Matthews. She was the girl who refused to be silenced. Back in her room that evening, Malik sat at her desk, the glow of her laptop illuminating her face. The words from the confrontation replayed in her mind like a loop. She could still feel the adrenaline rushing through her veins, the rush that came with defending herself, her dignity, and her identity. She wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. She was fighting for every student who had ever felt marginalized. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from her best friend, Tia. "Heard what happened today. You're a legend, Malik. Proud of you." Malik smiled softly. Tia had always been her rock, the one who reminded her of her worth when the world tried to dim her light. The next day, Malik walked into school with a new sense of purpose. She noticed the subtle nods of respect from classmates who had once avoided her. Teachers exchanged approving glances. Even some of the students who had previously whispered insults now looked at her differently, curious, admiring, maybe even a little inspired. But not everyone was ready to change. Jason Matthews avoided her gaze, his usual swagger replaced by awkwardness and regret. Rumors swirled that he was trying to clear his name, but Malik knew better. Actions spoke louder than words, and she intended to keep showing her strength through kindness and resilience. During lunch, Malik and Tia sat under their favorite oak tree, the afternoon sun casting dappled shadows on the ground. Students passed by, some stopping to offer smiles or quick hellos. It was a small victory, but a victory nonetheless. "People are starting to see you for who you really are," Tia said, her eyes shining with pride. Malik nodded. "It's just the beginning." Her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from the school principal, requesting a meeting. As Malik prepared for the meeting, she felt a mix of nerves and excitement. Whatever came next, she was ready. The principal's office was quieter than Malik expected. As she stepped inside, the stern yet warm eyes of Mrs. Lawson, the school principal, met hers with an unmistakable mix of respect and curiosity. "Malik," Mrs. Lawson began, I want to commend you for your courage yesterday. Standing up to bullying and racism isn't easy, but you handled it with maturity and strength." Malik nodded, feeling a rush of pride mixed with relief. "We want to support you," Mrs. Lawson continued. "We're planning an anti-bullying campaign. We'd like you to be the face of it." Malik's heart soared. This was bigger than her, a chance to make real change in her school. Over the next weeks, Malik found herself speaking to classrooms, leading discussions, and helping create workshops focused on respect, diversity, and inclusion. She worked closely with teachers and students alike, her dark curls bouncing as she moved confidently from group to group. Always dressed in her signature dark green camo hoodie and black joggers, a symbol of her authenticity and resilience. But the spotlight wasn't without its shadows. Jason Matthews, once the bully, became distant and bitter. He spread rumors, trying to undermine Malik's efforts, but she refused to stoop to his level. Instead, she doubled down on her mission, proving that strength comes from dignity, not cruelty. One afternoon, as Malik was leaving school, Jason confronted her again, this time with an apology. His tone was tentative, eyes avoiding hers. "I'm sorry, Malik," he said quietly. "I was wrong. You're stronger than I ever imagined." Malik looked at him steadily. Forgiveness wasn't about excusing the past, it was about freeing herself from its grip. "Thank you," she replied simply. "Let's both do better." That moment marked not just a victory over bullying, but a step toward healing. Proof that change was possible, even in the hardest hearts. With the anti-bullying campaign now gaining momentum, Malik's role in the school grew beyond anyone's expectations. She was no longer just a student. She was a leader, a symbol of strength and hope. Posters bearing her image and inspiring messages adorned the hallways, and students of all backgrounds began to unite in a way Westbrook High had never seen before. Malik balanced her new responsibilities with schoolwork and her martial arts training, determined not to lose sight of who she was beneath the spotlight. Her dark green camo hoodie and black joggers became a uniform of resilience, a reminder of where she'd come from and what she stood for. One afternoon, during a school assembly, Malik took the stage. The auditorium was packed with students, teachers, and parents. The air buzzed with anticipation as she stepped up to the microphone, her natural curls framing her radiant, confident face. "I stand here today not just for myself, but for every person who has ever been made to feel less than because of who they are," Malik began, her voice steady and clear. "Bullying and racism hurt, but they don't define us. We define ourselves through our courage, our kindness, and our strength." Her words sparked something in the crowd, a wave of understanding and resolve. After the speech, students approached her, sharing stories of their own struggles and their hopes for change. Malik listened with empathy, offering encouragement and solidarity. Yet, not all challenges had disappeared. Some students still resisted the movement, clinging to old prejudices. Malik knew this fight was far from over, but she refused to be discouraged. Every step forward was a victory. That evening, as she practiced her martial arts in the quiet of her room, Malik reflected on how far she'd come. The journey wasn't easy, but it was hers, a testament to the power of standing tall. Even when the world tries to push you down, the momentum of Malik's movement was undeniable. Teachers incorporated her story into lessons about empathy and justice. Students formed clubs and organized events, all inspired by her courage. But with visibility came new pressures, the weight of expectation, the eyes of those who doubted, and the silent fear that one misstep could unravel everything. One crisp autumn afternoon, Malik received an invitation to speak at the city's Youth Leadership Conference. It was a chance to take her message beyond Westbrook High, to inspire others facing similar struggles. Standing backstage, Malik felt the familiar rush of nerves. But as she glanced at the packed auditorium, faces full of anticipation and hope, she remembered why she had started this journey. Taking the stage, her voice echoed confidently. "When someone calls you names meant to hurt, remember those. Words belong to them, not you. Our strength is in how we respond." Her speech was met with thunderous applause. Students and adults alike were moved by her authenticity, her refusal to be defined by hate. But back home, the challenges persisted. Some students tried to undermine her reputation, spreading false stories in hopes of discrediting her. Malik's circle of friends and supporters only grew stronger, united by the shared belief in change. One evening, after a long day, Malik's phone buzzed with a message from Jason Matthews. "Can we talk?" "I want to understand more," Malik paused. Forgiveness and education were part of her mission. She also knew the importance of boundaries. She replied simply, "Let's meet at school tomorrow after hours." That meeting would change everything. The school halls were quiet as Malik waited near the gymnasium after hours. Jason arrived, his usual confidence replaced by something more uncertain, genuine curiosity, maybe even regret. "I've been thinking a lot," Jason began, voice low, "about what you said, about strength and respect. I realize I never really understood what people like you go through." Malik studied him carefully. This was more than a simple apology, it was a door opening. "I want to learn," he added. "Help me see it your way." Malik nodded. Forgiveness was powerful, but change took effort from both sides. Over the following weeks, Malik and Jason met regularly. She shared her experiences, how constant prejudice weighed on her, how bullying scars beyond bruises, how resilience was a daily fight. Jason listened, sometimes uncomfortable, but always respectful. Word of their unusual friendship spread quickly. Some students were skeptical, others hopeful. But Malik believed in the power of understanding to bridge divides. Together, they organized a workshop titled "Walking in Each Other's Shoes," where students shared stories and broke down stereotypes. The event was a success, drawing a diverse crowd and fostering honest conversations. Malik's world was changing not just because she stood up to hate, but because she opened the door for healing and growth. Yet challenges remained. Not everyone was ready to forgive or listen. Malik faced backlash from those clinging to old prejudices, but she stayed steadfast, fueled by the progress she and her community had made. One afternoon, as Malik practiced her martial arts, she reflected on the journey. The fight against racism and bullying was far from over, but with every step forward, the path grew clearer. As the weeks turned into months, Malik's influence at Westbrook High deepened. The school was changing not overnight, but steadily, thanks in large part to her unwavering dedication and the bridges she was building. Malik and Jason's partnership became a symbol of hope. Together, they helped create a new student council initiative focused on inclusivity, organizing cultural events and peer mentoring programs that celebrated diversity and fostered empathy. But Malik knew real change went beyond school walls. She started volunteering at a community center after school, mentoring younger kids who faced the same struggles she once did. Seeing their bright eyes and eager spirits reminded her why she fought so hard, not just for herself, but for future generations. One evening, Malik's phone rang. It was her mother, a successful lawyer who had always instilled in Malik the values of justice and strength. "I'm proud of you, Malik," her mother said softly. "You're making a difference." Malik smiled, feeling the weight of responsibility but also the warmth of support. Yet, despite the progress, not everyone was on board. A group of students resisted the changes, whispering doubts and trying to sow division. Malik confronted them calmly during a school forum, her voice steady and commanding. "We're not here to erase anyone's history," she said, "but to build a future where everyone is respected." Her words resonated, turning skeptics into allies. The school year was coming to an end, and Malik stood on the cusp of graduation, a moment that felt both like an ending and a beginning. As she looked out at her classmates during the final assembly, Malik felt a surge of hope. The journey had been hard, filled with challenges and victories, but she was ready for whatever came next. Graduation day dawned bright and clear. Malik stood tall among her classmates, her deep mahogany skin glowing under the sun, her natural curls perfectly framing her face. Dressed in her cap and gown, she felt the weight of every lesson learned, every battle fought, and every victory won. The auditorium buzzed with excitement as names were called and diplomas handed out. When Malik's name was announced, the applause was thunderous, louder than anything she'd ever heard. Her classmates, teachers, and family cheered for the girl who had transformed not only herself, but the very heart of their school. Malik took to the stage to deliver the valedictorian speech. Her voice, steady and warm, carried a message of resilience, unity, and hope. "We have the power to change the world," she told the crowd. "Not through anger or hate, but through understanding, courage, and respect. Every one of us has a story, and every story deserves to be heard." As she spoke, Malik's eyes scanned the audience, landing on familiar faces, friends she had made, foes who had changed, and even Jason Matthews, who gave her an encouraging nod. After the ceremony, students gathered under the oak tree, their laughter and chatter filling the air. Malik felt a deep sense of belonging, a community forged through struggle and growth. Later, as the sun set, Malik stood alone for a moment, reflecting on the journey. From the harsh words in a school hallway to becoming a beacon of change, she had come far. The fight against bullying and racism was ongoing, but she was no longer afraid. With a confident smile, Malik whispered to herself, "This is just the beginning." And with that, she stepped forward into the future, stronger, wiser, ready to inspire the world. Malik's first year at university was nothing short of a whirlwind. The campus was vast and diverse, filled with students from every background and corner of the country. Yet even here, she encountered echoes of the prejudices she'd fought so hard to overcome. But Malik was no longer the quiet girl who once bore the weight of ignorance and silence. She was a leader now, a voice for change, carrying the lessons of Westbrook High into a broader world. She joined the university's social justice coalition, quickly becoming a prominent advocate for racial equality and anti-bullying initiatives on campus. Her familiar dark green jacket, a subtle nod to her signature hoodie back home, became a symbol among her peers. One chilly autumn evening, Malik spoke at a campus event titled Voices for Change, sharing her story from the hallways of Westbrook to the lecture halls of the university. Change doesn't come easy, she told the packed auditorium, but it starts with one person daring to stand up. Outside, a group of students approached her, including some who had once doubted her back in high school. They apologized, offering support and friendship. Malik smiled, feeling the power of transformation. Yet the fight was far from over. Incidents of bias and exclusion still surfaced on campus, reminding Malik that vigilance and courage were ongoing necessities. Determined, she spearheaded a mentorship program connecting university students with high schoolers, bridging generations. To foster understanding and hope, late one night, as Malik walked through the quiet campus, she felt the familiar fire inside, the same fire that had carried her through countless battles. The world was bigger now, so were the challenges. But Malik was ready, stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever. Her journey was far from over. It was just beginning anew. Years later, Malik stood at the podium of a packed auditorium, now a respected community leader and advocate for social justice. Her rich mahogany skin glowed under the spotlight, her natural curls framing a face marked by strength and wisdom. The crowd was diverse, young and old, from all walks of life, drawn by the story of the girl who refused to be silenced. Standing up to hate, Malik began, isn't a one-time act. It's a lifelong commitment. But every voice raised against injustice brings us closer to a world where everyone belongs. Her words rippled through the audience, inspiring a new generation to carry the torch. Behind her, images of her journey from that tense high school hallway to the graduation stage, to university and beyond, played on a giant screen. Malik paused, remembering the bully who once called her Jungle Girl, now a friend and ally who had walked beside her on the path toward understanding. The fight against racism and bullying was far from over. But Malik's story was proof that change was possible when courage meets compassion. After the speech, students approached her with tears in their eyes, thanking her for showing them what strength truly meant. Malik smiled, knowing the journey had come full circle. As the evening ended, Malik stepped outside into the cool night air, the city lights sparkling like stars. She looked up, feeling the weight of the past but also the promise of the future. "This is just the beginning," she whispered, ready to keep fighting, leading, and inspiring. And with that, Malik walked forward, a beacon of hope, resilience, and change. Years passed, but Malik's influence only grew stronger. Now a community organizer and motivational speaker. She traveled across the country, sharing her story. A story of pain turned to power, hatred transformed by hope. Her signature, dark green jacket, reminiscent of her high school hoodie, became a symbol of resilience wherever she went. Malik's voice reached thousands, inspiring young people to stand tall in the face of adversity. Back in her hometown, Westbrook High had transformed into a beacon of inclusivity. Programs Malik helped start continued to thrive, led by students, who carried her spirit forward. The school's auditorium bore a plaque in her honor, a reminder that one person's courage could ignite a movement. One afternoon, Malik returned to Westbrook for a visit. Walking the familiar halls, she saw smiling faces and heard laughter where once there was silence. Teachers greeted her warmly. Students approached her with stories of their own battles and victories. Malik felt a profound sense of peace. The journey had been long and difficult, but the change she helped create was real and lasting. As she stood beneath the old oak tree, the place where she and Tia once sat dreaming of a better future, Malik whispered a promise to herself and those who would come after. This is just the beginning. With a hopeful smile, she stepped forward into the next chapter, ready to keep lighting the way. Malik's return to Westbrook wasn't just a visit, it was a mission. Community welcomed her with open arms, eager to hear her insights and guidance. Though much had changed since her days as a student, Malik knew the fight against prejudice was ongoing. She began working closely with school leaders to develop new programs emphasizing empathy, restorative justice, and student-led initiatives. Malik believed that real change came when young people took ownership of their communities. One afternoon, Malik sat in a meeting with the school board. She listened carefully as concerns were voiced. Some parents resisted the new approaches. Fearing they would disrupt traditions, Malik spoke with patience and passion. "Change is never easy," she said. "But to build a better future, we must listen, learn, and grow together." Her words struck a chord, gradually winning over skeptics. Outside school, Malik launched a nonprofit focused on youth empowerment and racial justice. The organization offered workshops, scholarships, and mentorship programs, resources she wished had been available to her when she was younger. Her team was diverse, united by shared purpose. Malik's leadership style was inclusive and compassionate. Reflecting the lessons she learned on her journey, late one evening, Malik sat beneath the stars, reflecting on the path ahead. The fight for equality was far from over, but with each step, she knew the world was becoming a little brighter, and Malik was determined to keep leading the way. Malik's nonprofit was gaining traction, but with growth came new challenges. One of the biggest hurdles was bridging gaps between communities that had long been divided by misunderstanding and mistrust. To address this, Malik organized a citywide dialogue event, bringing together students, parents, educators, and local leaders. The goal was simple but ambitious: to foster honest conversations and build empathy. Across cultural lines, the event hall was filled with a mix of anticipation and apprehension. Malik opened the forum with her signature calm strength. "We all carry stories," she said. "Some of pain, some of hope. Today we listen, we learn, and we begin to heal." As stories were shared, walls began to crumble. People spoke of experiences with racism, bullying, and exclusion, but also of moments of kindness and courage. The energy in the room shifted from tension to connection. Malik facilitated the dialogue with grace, ensuring every voice was heard. One young man, hesitant at first, stood to share his own journey of confronting his biases. His courage sparked applause and opened the door for others. By the evening's end, Malik saw firsthand the power of vulnerability and understanding. Back at her office, surrounded by team members and new allies, Malik felt renewed. The path was still long, The seeds of change were growing. She looked forward to the future with hope and a fierce determination to keep pushing forward. With the success of the citywide dialogue, Malik's nonprofit began expanding its reach. Schools across the region invited her team to lead workshops, sparking a ripple effect of awareness and empathy. Malik often reflected on how far she had come. From that painful moment in a crowded high school hallway to now inspiring entire communities. Yet, the work demanded resilience. Some faced her efforts with skepticism or resistance. But Malik met every challenge with unwavering calm and purpose. One chilly morning, Malik received an invitation to speak at a national conference on social justice. It was a major milestone, a platform to share her story with thousands beyond her hometown. As she prepared her speech, Malik thought about the many faces she'd met over the years, the students, parents, teachers, and even former bullies who had chosen to change. On the day of the conference, Malik stepped onto the stage. The spotlight warm on her skin, her curls framing her face like a crown. Her voice rang clear and strong. "We are the authors of our own stories," she declared. "And when we choose courage over fear, empathy over hatred, we can rewrite the narrative for generations to come." Her words resonated deeply. Among the audience were leaders who reached out afterward, eager to collaborate and amplify her message. Returning home, Malik felt the familiar fire of purpose. The journey was ongoing, the challenges many, but so were the possibilities. She knew her path would inspire others to stand tall, just as she had learned to do all those years ago. Years had passed since Malik first stood up in that crowded high school hallway, refusing to be silenced. Now, as a respected leader, mentor, and speaker, she looked back on her journey with a deep sense of pride and gratitude. Her work had transformed countless lives. But Malik never forgot the importance of self-care and reflection. Amidst the whirlwind of events, speeches, and community programs, she made time for quiet moments, practicing martial arts, sitting beneath her favorite oak tree, and connecting with loved ones. One afternoon, Malik received a letter from a young girl at Westbrook High. The note was simple but powerful. "Thank you for showing me I am worthy. Because of you, I stand taller." Tears filled Malik's eyes. This was why she fought at a community gala honoring her contributions. Malik delivered a heartfelt speech. "We all carry the power to change the world," she said, her voice steady with emotion. "It begins with standing up, not just for ourselves, but for each other." As applause filled the room, Malik felt a profound sense of fulfillment. The journey had been long and hard, but every step had been worth it. Looking ahead, Malik knew her story was far from over. The fight for justice, equality, respect would continue, but so would her commitment to lead with courage and compassion. And in that commitment, she found hope for a brighter tomorrow. Life after the gala brought fresh challenges for Malik. As her nonprofit grew, she faced complex decisions, balancing expansion with staying true to her mission. New partnerships opened doors, but also tested her resolve. Not every ally shared her vision of inclusivity and respect. One day, Malik received troubling news. A proposed policy in the city threatened to roll back protections for marginalized youth. The community was divided, and tensions ran high. Determined to act, Malik mobilized her network. She organized peaceful rallies, met with city officials, and amplified voices often ignored. Her trademark dark green jacket became a symbol of resistance as she stood on the steps of City Hall, speaking passionately into microphones and cameras. Despite setbacks and opposition, Malik's leadership inspired thousands to demand justice. Through relentless advocacy, policy was amended to better protect vulnerable students. In quieter moments, Malik returned to her martial arts training, finding strength and peace in discipline and focus. Her journey marked by struggle and triumph was a testament to the power of perseverance. As the sun set over the city's skyline, Malik smiled, ready for whatever battles lay ahead, knowing that with courage and community, change was possible. With the city's policy victory behind her, Malik felt a renewed sense of purpose. She knew that lasting change required not just protests and speeches, but transforming hearts and minds from the ground up. She launched an innovative program in collaboration with local schools. Empathy Builders, a series of immersive workshops designed to foster understanding among diverse students through storytelling, role-play, and community projects. The program quickly gained popularity, reaching hundreds of young people eager to break down barriers and build genuine connections. One afternoon, Malik visited a classroom mid-workshop. She watched as students shared personal stories and engaged in open dialogue, their faces alive with curiosity and compassion. A shy teenager approached her afterward, thanking Malik for creating a space where he felt safe to speak and be heard. Moments like these reminded Malik of why she never stopped fighting. But even as progress bloomed, Malik remained vigilant. She knew systemic change was a marathon. It's not a sprint. Her own journey had taught her that resilience, empathy, and leadership could light the way through even the darkest times. As she looked toward the future, Malik envisioned a world where every voice mattered, and she was determined to help make that vision a reality. Malik's work with the Empathy Builders program blossomed. But with growth came new responsibilities and new challenges. The program expanded to neighboring cities, requiring Malik to travel frequently and balance an ever-growing team. One day, during a visit to a school in a struggling community, Malik encountered resistance. Some local leaders were skeptical, questioning whether her message could resonate beyond her hometown. There were whispers that the program was too ambitious, too idealistic. Instead of retreating, Malik embraced the challenge. She held community forums, listened deeply to concerns, and adapted the program to honor local cultures while maintaining its core mission. Her ability to listen and evolve won over even the harshest critics. Slowly, trust was built. At a public event celebrating the program's success, Malik met a former student who shared how the workshops had transformed his life, helping him overcome anger and embrace compassion. Moments like these fueled Malik's passion. She knew the road ahead was long, but with each heart changed, the world grew brighter. That evening, as Malik stood on a balcony overlooking the city lights, she reflected on her journey from the hallways of Westbrook High to the forefront of a movement. Her resolve burned stronger than ever. The fight for justice, empathy, and respect was ongoing, and Malik was ready. As Malik's influence expanded beyond her city, she began to face unexpected challenges. With increased visibility came scrutiny. Media outlets debated her methods. Some critics accused her of stirring division rather than healing. One morning, Malik woke to find an anonymous letter condemning her work and questioning her motives. The words stung, but Malik refused to let them define her. Instead, she turned to her support network, friends, family, and colleagues who reminded her of the impact she had made and the lives she had touched. At a community gathering that evening, Malik spoke openly about the challenges of leadership. Change isn't easy, she said. There will be voices trying to tear us down, but we rise by lifting each other up. Her honesty resonated deeply. The crowd rallied behind her, their collective energy a shield against negativity. Malik also used the criticism as fuel to refine her approach, emphasizing transparency and collaboration. She launched a new initiative focused on mental health support for activists and community leaders, understanding that strength came not just from action, but from care. The journey was far from over, but Malik faced it with renewed determination. Knowing that every obstacle was an opportunity to grow, the years had shaped Malik into a pillar of strength and hope. But nothing could have prepared her for the day when tragedy struck close to home. One afternoon, she received a call that her younger sister, Amara, had been harassed and threatened while walking home from school. The pain Malik felt was raw, a stark reminder that the fight against hatred was personal and relentless. Without hesitation, Malik sprang into action. She connected with local authorities, community leaders, and school officials to ensure Amara's safety and bring attention to the incident. Determined to turn pain into power, Malik organized a community rally, calling for increased protection and support for vulnerable youth. The event drew thousands, united by a shared desire for justice and change. As Malik took the stage, her voice steady but fierce, she addressed the crowd. "This isn't just my sister's story. It's the story of so many who face hatred. Every day, we will not be silent. We will stand together and demand a world where everyone feels safe." Her words ignited a wave of activism and solidarity. Amara's courage inspired others to share their stories, breaking cycles of fear and silence. Malik's journey had come full circle, from standing alone in a school hallway to leading a movement fueled by love, resilience, and hope. The road ahead remained long, but Malik was ready to walk it, not just for herself, but for every person who dreamed of a better tomorrow. In the wake of the rally for her sister, Malik's movement gained unprecedented momentum. Media outlets began to cover the story widely, bringing national attention to the fight against bullying and racial injustice. Malik was invited to speak on panels, appear on talk shows, and consult with policymakers. Despite the newfound fame, Malik remained grounded. She knew the real work happened away from the spotlight in classrooms, community centers, and quiet conversations where hearts and minds were changed. She expanded her nonprofit's reach, launching initiatives focused on education reform, mental health support, and youth empowerment. Partnerships with other organizations flourished, creating a powerful network dedicated to justice and healing. But with growth came complex challenges. Managing a large team, navigating bureaucracy, and balancing public expectations tested Malik's leadership skills in new ways. One evening, after a long day of meetings, Malik sat in her office reflecting. The journey had been harder than she'd ever imagined, but also more rewarding. Her phone buzzed with a message from Amara. "Thank you for fighting for me. I'm proud to be your sister." Malik smiled, reminded that the fight was deeply personal and profoundly worthwhile. As she looked ahead, Malik felt ready for whatever came next. The movement was no longer just hers. It belonged to all who dared to dream of a more just world, and together, they would make that dream a reality. Malik's influence continued to grow, but so did the complexity of the issues she faced. Expanding her nonprofit to multiple cities meant navigating diverse communities with unique challenges. What worked in Westbrook didn't always translate easily elsewhere. Determined to listen and adapt, Malik traveled extensively, holding forums and listening sessions. She met with local leaders, youth activists, and families to understand their needs and perspectives. Her signature dark green jacket and natural curls became familiar sights across states. One trip took her to a rural town, struggling with deep-rooted prejudices and economic hardships. The community was wary, but Malik's genuine empathy broke through barriers. Slowly, trust blossomed. During a heartfelt gathering, a young boy shared how Malik's work had inspired him to pursue his dreams despite obstacles. Tears glistened. In Malik's eyes, reminders of why her fight mattered. Yet expansion also brought exhaustion. Balancing travel, leadership, and personal life tested Malik's resilience. She leaned on her close friends and family, especially Amara, whose courage remained a constant source of strength. In quieter moments, Malik found solace in her martial arts practice, a reminder of the discipline and focus that had carried her. From a bullied girl to a beacon of hope. The journey was far from over, but Malik faced the future with unwavering determination, knowing every step forward was a victory for justice and humanity. As Malik's organization expanded, she found herself grappling with the growing pains of leadership. Managing a diverse team spread across multiple regions brought unexpected challenges. Differences in opinion, cultural misunderstandings, and logistical hurdles threatened to slow their progress. Determined to foster unity, Malik initiated regular, virtual town halls where team members shared experiences, voiced concerns, and collaborated on solutions. Her natural empathy and strong communication skills helped bridge divides and build a cohesive vision. Meanwhile, Malik faced increasing pressure from political groups skeptical of her mission. Some attempted to discredit her work through misinformation campaigns, but Malik refused to be silenced or distracted. She doubled down on transparency, publishing detailed reports on her nonprofit's activities and impact. She also mentored young activists, teaching them resilience in the face of opposition. On a personal level, Malik struggled to maintain balance. The demands of activism weighed heavily on her relationships and health. She leaned on Amara and close friends for support, learning the importance of asking for help. One evening, after a particularly challenging day, Malik found peace practicing martial arts in her home studio. The familiar rhythms and discipline grounded her, reminding her why. She started this journey, though the path was difficult, Malik remained committed. Every challenge was an opportunity to grow stronger, and every success fueled her passion. The fight for justice was ongoing, but Malik knew she was not alone. Together, they would keep moving forward. The relentless pace of Malik's work began to pay off in new and unexpected ways. Communities that once resisted her message started embracing the change. Inspired by the stories of courage and healing, she helped amplify. Malik's nonprofit launched a groundbreaking initiative, a digital platform where youth from across the country could share their stories, connect with mentors, and access resources to combat bullying and racism. The platform blossomed into a vibrant community, fostering dialogue and support that transcended geographic and cultural boundaries. One day, Malik received a message from a young woman in a remote town. She wrote about feeling isolated and hopeless until discovering Malik's work. The woman's words moved Malik deeply, reinforcing the power of connection and empathy. Amid the growth, Malik made a conscious effort to slow down and nurture her own well-being. She returned regularly to her favorite oak tree at Westbrook High, where her journey had begun, finding solace in the familiar shade. At a national conference, Malik spoke about the importance of self-care for activists. Urging others to sustain their passion without burning out, her message resonated, sparking conversations about mental health and resilience in social justice movements. Malik's path was far from finished. But with every new connection and shared story, she felt the world growing kinder, stronger, and more united. Her dream of a just, compassionate future was becoming reality, one courageous step at a time. Malik's work had grown into a national movement, touching thousands of lives and inspiring countless young leaders. Yet, with such influence came new scrutiny and pressure. Critics questioned her methods, while some within her own team grappled with differing visions for the future, determined to keep the mission on course. Malik called a summit, bringing together leaders from across the movement to discuss values, strategies, and shared goals. The summit was intense but productive, with honest conversations that strengthened their unity. Outside the summit, Malik remained deeply connected to the communities she served. She traveled often, listening and learning, never losing sight of the individuals behind the cause. At a small-town school, Malik met a young girl named Nia, whose story echoed Malik's own struggles. Seeing Nia's courage reminded Malik why every effort mattered in quieter moments. Malik returned to martial arts, finding strength and clarity in its discipline. As Malik stood before a new generation of activists, she felt hope and responsibility. Intertwined, the road ahead was long, but the movement was resilient. Together they would continue to fight, heal, and build a better world. Malik's movement faced a new crossroads. As the nonprofit expanded, tensions emerged around how best to address systemic issues without alienating key partners. Some urged a focus on policy reform. Others emphasized grassroots education. The debate was passionate but necessary. Malik facilitated difficult conversations, reminding everyone that the mission required unity. Despite differing tactics in the midst of this, Malik received an invitation to testify before a national legislative committee on bullying and racial discrimination in schools. This was an opportunity to bring the voices of countless young people to the halls of power. Her testimony was powerful, blending personal experience with data and stories from her network. Lawmakers listened intently, some visibly moved. Following the hearing, Malik met with several legislators, advocating for stronger protections and funding for anti-bullying programs. Back home, Malik continued to nurture local programs, ensuring that policy changes translated into real community support. Her journey was a balancing act between advocacy and action, vision and pragmatism. Though the challenges were complex, Malik's resolve never wavered. The fight for justice required perseverance, and she was ready to lead. Following her impactful testimony, Malik's profile rose even higher. Invitations poured in from universities, civic organizations, and media outlets eager to learn from her experience and insights. Despite the acclaim, Malik remained grounded.
How?
She knew that the heart of her work was in the communities, the classrooms, the neighborhood centers, the homes where change truly began. One particularly poignant moment came when Malik visited a juvenile detention center to lead a workshop. She met young people whose voices were often unheard, and she listened deeply to their stories of pain, resilience, and hope. The encounter reinforced Malik's belief that justice meant more than laws. It meant healing and opportunity. Meanwhile, within her organization, Malik worked to build leadership among youth activists, empowering them to carry the mission forward. Balancing public attention and grassroots work was challenging. But Malik thrived on the synergy. As she reflected on her journey, Malik realized that every setback had been a lesson. Every victory a step closer to a more just world. Her resolve burned brighter than ever. The movement was growing, and so was her impact. As Malik's movement continued to grow, she faced the constant challenge of maintaining its core values amid rapid expansion. New partnerships and funding opportunities opened doors, but also brought pressures to compromise. Malik stood firm, insisting that every decision reflect the mission's heart, empowering youth, fostering empathy, and combating injustice. One pivotal moment came when a major donor suggested shifting focus to more commercially appealing projects. Malik respectfully declined, emphasizing the importance of authenticity and impact over popularity. Her stance earned both admiration and resistance. But Malik's conviction never wavered. In the communities she served, Malik remained a tireless presence, attending local events, mentoring young leaders, advocating for change. Her own personal journey continued as well, with moments of reflection and renewal. Martial arts remained a sanctuary, helping her stay centered amid the storm. During a quiet retreat, Malik envisioned the future world transformed by courage, compassion, and collective action. Her dream was no longer just hers. It belonged to everyone willing to stand up and be heard. With renewed strength, Malik prepared for the next chapter, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Malik's influence reached new heights, but so did the intensity of opposition. Some groups, threatened by her message of equality and justice, launched coordinated campaigns to undermine her credibility and spread misinformation. At first, the attacks were subtle rumors and whispers in community meetings, but soon, they escalated into public protests and online harassment aimed at intimidating Malik and her team. Despite the pressure, Malik refused to back down. Drawing on her inner strength and the support of her community, she addressed the controversy head-on, holding open forums to foster dialogue and dispel falsehoods. She also doubled down on transparency, inviting independent audits of her organization and engaging with critics respectfully but firmly. Her resilience inspired many, reminding them that the fight for justice often comes with resistance, but also with the power to overcome. Throughout the storm, Malik leaned on her closest allies and her martial arts practice. Grounding herself in discipline and focus, her resolve burned brighter than ever. The journey was far from over, but Malik knew that with courage and community, any challenge could be met. The battle had been long and arduous, filled with moments of doubt and triumph. But Malik stood unyielding, a beacon of hope for those who had once been silenced. Her organization had grown into a movement, a chorus of voices demanding justice, compassion, and change. On a crisp autumn evening, Malik stood before a packed crowd at the National Social Justice Summit. The room pulsed with energy, faces illuminated by the glow of shared purpose. Taking the stage, Malik's voice rang clear and unwavering. Change is not easy. It requires courage, compassion, and the refusal to give up even when the path is steep. Together, we have turned pain into power, division into unity, and silence into a roar. The audience erupted in applause, their faces shining with hope, as Malik stepped down, surrounded by friends, family, and allies. She felt the weight of the journey lift, slightly replaced by a fierce optimism. Her story was not just about overcoming bullying or racism, it was about the enduring strength of the human spirit. The future was still unwritten, but Malik was ready to lead, to inspire, and to keep fighting, because this was only the beginning. After the triumphant Social Justice Summit, Malik returned home with a heart full of hope and a mind buzzing with new ideas. The summit had been a milestone, but for Malik, it was merely a stepping stone toward even greater change. Back in her hometown, Malik found herself approached by young activists eager to learn, inspired by her story and unwavering dedication. She began mentoring these rising leaders, sharing wisdom gained through years of struggle and perseverance. Her nonprofit evolved into a hub of innovation and collaboration, where creativity and passion intersected to build new programs addressing education, mental health, and community healing. Amara, now a confident young woman, stood beside Malik as a partner in the work they both cherished. Together, they launched Roots and Wings, a program empowering youth to embrace their heritage while reaching for their dreams. Malik also found time for personal growth, traveling, exploring new cultures, and deepening her martial arts practice. Finding peace and strength in balance, though challenges still arose, Malik faced them with the calm resolve of someone who had walked through fire and emerged stronger. Her legacy was not just in what she had accomplished, but in the lives she had touched and the movement she had ignited. The journey continued, and Malik was ready, always ready to lead the way. Years into the future, Malik found herself at the helm of a global initiative aimed at fostering empathy and combating discrimination worldwide. Her vision had transcended borders, inspiring communities across continents to come together in the fight for justice. Traveling from city to city, Malik witnessed firsthand the universality of her mission, the shared struggles, hopes, and dreams of people everywhere. Each encounter reinforced her belief that compassion was the most powerful catalyst for change. At an international youth summit, Malik addressed a crowd of thousands, her voice carrying across languages and cultures. "We are united by our humanity," she declared, "and together we have the power to build a future where everyone is valued." Her words sparked a wave of commitment among young leaders eager to carry the torch forward. Back home, Malik continued, nurturing the next generation of activists, mentoring young women and men who reminded her of her younger self, determined, courageous, and unyielding. Despite the immense scope of her work, Malik remained grounded in the small moments: a smile from a child, a heartfelt thank you, a shared story that bridged divides. Through it all, she held fast to the belief that every step toward justice, no matter how small, mattered. And as Malik looked to the horizon, she felt the steady pulse of progress beneath her feet, propelling her onward. The journey was far from over, but Malik's heart burned bright with hope and resolve. Malik's global work brought her into contact with powerful leaders and grassroots activists alike. Yet she never lost sight of the importance of listening and humility. Each community had its own unique story, and Malik approached every encounter as both teacher and student. During a visit to a remote village, Malik met an elder who shared ancient wisdom about resilience and unity. Their conversation reminded her that the struggle for justice was timeless, a thread woven through generations. Inspired, Malik integrated these lessons into her programs, blending modern activism with traditional values to create a holistic approach to change. Back in her hometown, Malik's nonprofit celebrated its 20th anniversary. The event was a joyous gathering of past and present leaders, families, and youth, whose lives had been transformed as Malik took the stage. She reflected on the journey from a bullied girl called Jungle Girl to a beacon of hope on the world stage. Her voice steady, she shared a simple truth: change begins with one person daring to stand up. And together, we can build a world where every voice is heard, every story valued, and every life honored." The crowd erupted in applause, their hearts united in purpose. Malik smiled, knowing the journey would continue long after her time, because the fight for justice was a legacy of flame to be passed on, ignited anew with each generation. As the years rolled on, Malik increasingly focused on mentorship, determined to empower the next generation of leaders. She established a fellowship program designed to nurture young activists from diverse backgrounds, providing them with resources, guidance, and a supportive community. Each fellow brought unique passion and perspectives, enriching the movement with fresh ideas and boundless energy. Malik cherished these moments, seeing in their eyes the same fire that had fueled her own journey. One fellow, a young woman named Amina, reminded Malik vividly of her younger self, resilient, determined, and fiercely compassionate. Malik took her under her wing, sharing lessons learned from decades of advocacy. Together, they worked to launch new initiatives addressing mental health and educational equity, expanding the nonprofit's reach even further. In quieter moments, Malik found joy in simple pleasures: gardening, long walks, and practicing martial arts, where she found balance and peace. A community gathering. Malik was honored with an award recognizing her lifelong dedication to justice and equality, surrounded by friends, family, and fellow activists. She spoke humbly about the collective power of hope and action. "The journey isn't mine alone," she said. "It belongs to all of us who believe in a better world." Her words echoed long after the event, inspiring those present to carry the flame forward. Malik knew her legacy was secure, not just in awards or accolades, but in the lives she had touched and the movement she had helped ignite. The future was bright, and in the hearts of many, her spirit would live on, with her mentorship program flourishing. Malik turned her attention to building bridges between generations. She organized annual conferences where seasoned activists and young leaders gathered to exchange wisdom, strategies, and dreams. The conferences became vibrant celebrations of resilience and hope, testament to the power of collective action. One memorable event featured a panel where Malik shared the stage with several of her earliest mentees, now leaders in their own right. Together, they reflected on the journey, the struggles, and the victories that shaped their shared mission. Outside the formal events, Malik continued her quiet work, writing, speaking, and collaborating on projects that amplified marginalized voices. To writings, a blend of memoir, advocacy, and poetry, inspired readers worldwide. Amara, a confident and compassionate leader herself, often joined Malik in these endeavors. Their bond stronger than ever. As Malik looked toward the horizon, she felt a profound sense of peace. The movement was no longer a solitary path, but a wide river flowing through countless lives and communities. Her story had become a legacy of courage, empathy, and unwavering hope. And Malik knew that, whatever the future held, the fight for justice would carry on brighter and stronger with every new voice raised. As time passed, Malik found herself reflecting more deeply on the journey that had brought her here. The early days marked by pain and prejudice, the battles fought in courtrooms and community centers, and the many lives touched along the way. She began writing a memoir, weaving together stories of struggle, resilience, and triumph. Through her words, Malik hoped to inspire others to find their own strength and voice. The memoir quickly gained attention, resonating with readers worldwide who saw in her story a mirror of their own hopes and challenges. Meanwhile, Malik continued to nurture her fellowship program, ensuring that every new generation had the tools and support needed to carry the movement forward. She also deepened her involvement in international collaborations, helping to adapt her programs to different cultural contexts with sensitivity and respect. At home, Malik cherished quiet moments with Amara and close friends, finding balance in laughter, shared meals, and simple joys. Her martial arts practice remained a sanctuary, a place to center herself amidst the demands of leadership. Though the world still faced injustice, Malik's heart was filled with hope, because she knew the flame of change burned bright, and that together it would keep lighting the way. Malik's memoir tour took her to cities around the world, where she connected with diverse audiences, eager to hear her story firsthand. Each event was a tapestry of shared experiences, laughter, tears, and renewed commitment. At one such gathering, a young man approached Malik, eyes shining with gratitude. He spoke of how her journey had given him the courage to stand up against injustice in his own community. Moments like these reminded Malik that her story was more than a personal triumph. It was a beacon for others navigating their own struggles. Back home, Malik's fellowship program celebrated its 10th year. The alumni network had grown into a powerful force, leading initiatives that spanned education, social justice, and mental health advocacy. Malik took pride in watching these leaders blossom, knowing that the movement she helped spark was now a vibrant, living force. Despite the accolades and successes, Malik remained humble, always returning to the core principles that had guided her from the beginning: empathy, courage, and community. As she stood beneath the familiar oak tree at Westbrook High, Malik felt a deep sense of gratitude. The journey had been long, but every step had been worth it, and with new voices rising, the future was brighter than ever. As Malik reflected on the journey of her life, she realized that every pain, every struggle, and every victory had shaped her into who she was today, a beacon of light guiding the way through darkness. She understood that true change was not just in laws or voices, but in the hearts of every individual. Raising her eyes toward the sky with a smile, she thought, "This is only the beginning." And with that hope and courage, she moved forward, ready to write her story, raise her voice, and make her world a better place.